Welcome to the Transform Your Wealth and Health podcast, where experts in wealth, health, and fitness help transform your life. Here's your host, Andy Arter.
Today's guest has come here in person, and last July he decided enough was enough. The rat race of 21 years had ended. So we have today our very special guest, Jim Ruddy.
Hello Andy, it's great to be here.
Jim, thank you for coming along. So 21 years of being a
primary school teacher for my sins.
That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
Primary schools, I remember the teachers were in control. I'm imagining nowadays it's a little bit harder to control the kids.
Well, I don't really want to criticise the profession too much because I've loved it. It's been my life for 21 years and it's part of who I am. And it goes very, very deep. It's my passion and it always has been. And it wasn't the children at all. It was the job has changed so much. And really, it can be all-consuming. The marking, the relentless planning. You always feel like you're under scrutiny from the government, from the school, from governors, everything. And really, it just became too much at the end. I was finding it very, very hard to relax, to take time out, constantly feeling under pressure. So yeah, I decided it was time to do something about that. And in July, I said goodbye to teaching.
With a heavy heart?
Yeah, it was in many ways. It was because I loved the job. I loved teaching and still do. It's something that I've really, really enjoyed. But I think sometimes you have to be a little bit selfish. I could see that this was going to be my life. It was my life for the last 20 years, but it was going to be my life for the next 20 years as well, maybe even a bit longer. I couldn't continue in that way. I knew something had to change. So here I am. Yeah, finished in July.
And you transitioned to?
And now...
Yes.
I'm an Amazon seller.
Now this is the interesting thing, Jim, because there's plenty of people out there that are promoting Amazon selling, and I've yet to meet someone that's actually did it, other than yourself, of course. And I thought that'd be an interesting topic to have on the podcast because you've completely changed what you was doing. You've transformed your life, and you're doing something completely different. And I thought we need Jim on. We need Jim to tell us all about it, how he did it, the mindset behind it. I know you said it was obviously stressful being a teacher and the job had become difficult. So there's plenty of other people out there that will have the same kind of problem. Tell us a little bit about the Amazon and why you actually particularly picked that.
To be honest, I can't exactly remember the moment where I stumbled across it, but I used to spend a lot of time scouring Facebook and all kinds of other kinds of media looking for something else. And I think it was a film, or them films you get on Facebook. I think it was a film by a guy called Oliver Denyer, who's into this kind of thing. He's a big name in the Amazon selling world. And I just stumbled across the film and watched it and thought to myself, this could be it. Obviously, I've got bills to pay. I've got responsibilities, the mortgage.
That's the frightening bit.
Yeah. And although I don't have a family myself, still have lots of responsibilities and the bills keep coming. And I knew that I couldn't just walk away without having something in place. But the great thing about Amazon was I could do it as a side hustle.
Yeah.
And test it out, see if it worked before making that jump. Because I think there's nobody who's in the position where they can just walk away. So I did. Joined a few Facebook groups, followed the plan, watched a few YouTube videos, and I tested it out. I actually started in May 2016. That's when I sold my first product on Amazon.
What product was it, Jim? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. Funnily enough, the first box I sent off to Amazon was probably my most profitable.
Really?
I bought a load of phones from Homebase. Those retro phones that
the ones they couldn't get rid of, you mean?
I was selling them cheap. I think I bought them for about £25 and I remember selling them for 70 quid or something like that. And obviously Amazon take a cut.
Yeah.
You're using their platform to sell it. And that was it. It was only a small box of about 7 or 8 phones, but you get this app on the phone where you can check how your sales are going and check your inventory. And that feeling of checking your inventory and seeing that you've sold one, and you just think, oh my gosh, this just really works.
That was quite nice, wasn't it?
It was great.
Profit. Great.
Yes. That box was fantastic. I think the few after it were not quite the same, but I've obviously made a few mistakes along the way. You have to try different things. I've learned an awful lot. It was a very steep learning curve. Yeah. But the great thing was I was doing it in the evenings and the weekends whilst continuing my job. So it took that pressure of, that I knew that my bills would still be paid. I still had that security of my job.
Do you have multiple forms of income, Jim?
Well, I have been thinking about leaving the profession for quite a while, as I'm sure many people, not just in teaching, but in the rat race too. So over the years, I've dabbled in a few other areas as well. I've got 2 properties, 2 single lets in Luton with 2 different friends. So I have that. I mean, it doesn't produce a monthly income, so to speak, but they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
They're there, and in 20 years' time, that's the pension plan.
Well, Luton went up incredibly last year in the values of the properties, didn't it?
You're right, Andy. Luton was phenomenal. I mean, people were just flooding into Luton to buy investment. It really has done well.
What was the percentage? It was about 15% rise in 1 year, something like that.
I can't remember exactly. I think
it is.
It was pretty good. I know that the first house was probably 3 years ago. We bought that, myself and a friend, another teacher friend, and I think it's gone up nearly 100,000 in value in 3 years, if I'm honest. Yeah, and then a second one a year later with another friend. They're doing well. We've been very lucky. A few testing times along the way.
I can imagine.
A couple of floods here and there, and my DIY skills, I don't think are as good as I.
Any plague or pestilence or anything?
Not yet, but
okay.
Watch this space. But no, it's really enjoyable. In fact, that's where you and I met, Andy, wasn't it? A few years ago on a property course. It's something I've followed for many years and was always interested in, and I continue to be. And maybe that's something in the future I could even.
Well, I remember you saying back in those days, Jim, that the teaching was getting a bit much and you wanted to try other things, and then obviously a year or two goes by and there you are with the Amazon. But do you want to tell us a little bit more about the nitty-gritty day-to-day stuff that you do on the Amazon?
Yeah, sure. So really there's two ways of selling on Amazon. They're called online arbitrage and retail arbitrage. The retail arbitrage, just go around to different shops. I spend a lot of time driving around in the day, visiting the local Currys and Argos, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, looking for deals. I have a little scanner on my phone, so I scan the barcode of products that I just see, clearance items usually, or reduced things, and the app feeds back the price that it's selling for in Amazon and the costs, and then I make a judgment as to whether or not it will be worth my while buying it. So that's one way. You just drive around and get lucky, and you'll be surprised how many deals there are out there. Alongside the teaching, I was many a night down at Tesco's Brent Cross at midnight, the 24-hour shopping.
Yeah.
That's what it took. Up at Sainsbury's, weekends, driving a bit further out, trying out all these shops.
Just ordinary shops.
Yeah. And then the other side of it is online arbitrage, which is a lot easier, really. Not quite as lucrative, but a lot easier. That's where you just shop online. So you find the product online. There's one or two little tools you can subscribe to and use to help you find the deals online.
They're inside information, so to speak.
Oh, yes.
Right, okay.
And what that does, it scans, for example, it scans the database of Argos, Tesco's, and hundreds more stores. You set up these little searches, and then it feeds back the results, and you make a decision then as to whether or not it's profitable. Because obviously Amazon do charge for their services. I mean, I don't send anything off to customers.
Right.
All I do is I collect all the items, usually toys and DVDs and small electrical items, things like that. Collect them all in the house till I've got enough to fill a box. Put it in the box, enter all the stuff into the computer, and off it goes to Amazon. They then take care of all the customer services, the returns, and sending it and packaging it and sending it out to customers. Because I don't think I could deal with that. That would be quite stressful, I think, having to deal with customers and having to send every individual item out. A bit like eBay, really. That's what you do on eBay, isn't it? So, all that's removed, and you pay Amazon for it and make a nice little profit on the side. Mm-hmm. So I was able to do that and grow that whilst I was still teaching. I mean, there came a point where I knew it could work. It was something that I could replace my income doing it, to be honest, and I have done. Good. I do have a few other little things I do. I do some one-to-one teaching still because I enjoy it, and that also helps to pay the bills.
Is that like a fail-safe backup, so it's always there?
And that's great to have that. And I guess I always knew then if it did go wrong, the kind of job I was in. I mean, I think you probably hear it on the media that people are leaving teaching in droves at the moment. They're having a bit of a crisis in the profession. People are leaving. So if it all did go wrong, I guess I could always go back, and that's quite a nice place to be too. But no, so I started back in May 2016. I finished teaching in July, just past July 2017, isn't it?
Yeah.
And now I'm about 6 months in,
full time,
and loving it.
Oh, brilliant!
Absolutely loving it. It's been life changing, if I'm honest. It really has.
So. I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway because the people listening won't know the answers. Because you've got more time now, Jim, do you keep fit?
Yes, I'm a work in progress.
Okay.
as you can see.
Tell us all about it.
Actually, Andy, I've got to bring up your ebook here, which I have read.
I'll let you go on as it's about me.
I have read, and it's been fantastic. I think what you've been doing is fantastic, and I can see we do touch base every now and again on phone, don't we?
Yes.
But I haven't seen you for a while, but you can really see how fit you are. You know, you've really lost a lot of weight, and you look so much healthier. Not that you didn't before, but you can really see the difference.
Stop while you're ahead. Come on, Tim.
But I have read your ebook, which is fantastic. It really has inspired me alongside, well, just to be honest, after 20 years of feeling pretty low and pretty bad health-wise, I never really looked after myself at all. I used to go to the gym, but there was no consistency there. Now, I'll be honest, I'm in the gym every day.
Are you? More than me, Jim.
And I swim a mile, which I've worked out as somewhere between 60 and 70 lengths, and I love it. And if I don't swim, I go out for an hour and a half's walk in the park.
Wow.
And while I'm doing that, there's great leverage there, because I stick the earphones in and I listen to a podcast or I listen to an audio book.
This one, of course.
Yeah, definitely. I touch base with your podcast every time, Andy. It's really great. It really is. And so I do that every day now. And sometimes, I mean, I must admit, at some point every day, I feel myself actually pinching myself and thinking, and I'm not exaggerating here. I really do. I'm blessed. I really feel blessed, because I pinch myself and I think, is this real? Because this kind of thing, although I've always wanted it, I never thought it was within my grasp. I really didn't. You know, the other day, I think it was Thursday, I went to the gym, done my swim, and I think I was in the jacuzzi in...
Now you're showing off, Jim.
in Holmes Place. You know, I think it's not Holmes Place, it's Virgin Active. I was in the jacuzzi. I think it was about 9:30. And of course it was very quiet. I was the only one there, because everyone had gone off to their day job, you know.
Yeah.
And it was then it struck me, and I kind of thought, God, this is just incredible here. I always find a few moments every day, usually at the start, just to sit quietly and, think about what I've got to do, create my list and you know, what I need to do for the day. And sometimes it's in, the jacuzzi, or it's wherever, And I just sat there on Thursday and I thought, wow, this is just incredible. So it can happen, but it takes that little bit of effort, that bit of belief. And you mentioned mindset earlier, Andy, which has been a huge learning curve for me. I've worked very hard on that over the last couple of years, maybe even longer. But since I've been introduced to the world of podcasts and audiobooks, I think that's played a huge part in helping to create a more positive mindset for myself. Because when you're stuck in that rut, and I know there's so many people out there who can relate to this, just when you're stuck in the rut and you're working so hard day in, day out, you never really get a chance to think about what it is you really want to do. I just haven't had the time, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but you don't get the time to even think. There's no space in your head to think about what it is what your passions are. Everywhere I go, I hear about what's your why, what's your purpose, and what's your passion. Mix your passion with your profession, and that's all wonderful. But when you're in the thick of it, that's just not possible.
It's a bit like trying to teach a drowning man how to swim. It's just not really realistic, is it?
Yeah, you're on the wheel day in, day out, and even the weekends. If I wasn't working, I was thinking of working, and there's no headspace at all. I mean, Amazon isn't my passion. I won't lie to anyone, it's not my passion. It's not. It's not life changing. It's not creating wonderful things in the world. When I was a teacher, that was something that really was quite very important to me, and I felt like I was giving something back. However,
I thought there was going to be a however or a but coming up. But it's given me the freedom and the headspace. That's the biggest thing for me, the headspace to think about those bigger questions now. I mean, I wouldn't class myself as probably a hugely creative person, but since I've had this time, gosh, the ideas that I've spoken to you about, quite a few of them on the phone, Andy, and you've always been very kind with your time and given me some fantastic advice, I must admit. But I've had these ideas that they're just flooding into my mind about what I could do now and what I want to do now with the rest of my life. And I've never had the time or the space to do that. So although Amazon isn't I was on a course yesterday. Shah Wasmond. Oh yes,
it was fantastic. She's an amazing person. I've followed her quite closely over the years. And I was chatting to this lady. She was talking about, she was on her second book, and I won't go into the details of it all, but it was very passionate about what she was doing. As she was talking to me, you could see in her eyes, she was really living this. It was really her dream and her passion. And then she asked me, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm selling on Amazon. And she said to me, Does that make your heart sing? That was I thought that was a beautiful way of saying it. And I kind of thought about this on the train all the way home. And no, it doesn't make my heart sing. Mm-hmm. But I know that it's going to allow me to find now what makes my heart sing. Because I've got the time and the freedom. I never felt like this before. And, I've spent all those years treading the path that's expected. You go to university, you get your degree and you get your job. And now I've removed myself from all that. And I used to get a very tight chest, especially on Sunday night. Sunday evenings were the worst. You kind of think, oh, here we go again. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I never ever felt like I didn't want to teach the children. I loved that 9 till 3:30 was the golden hours. That's the best bit. It was the rest that was really, the weekends and the evenings. But I never felt like I didn't want to go in, to teach the kids. But now Sunday nights were hard, because you think of all the things you haven't done. And as a teacher, you never ever feel like that list. I'm a great list man, I make my lists and tick them off. Me too. Always write a few that you've done at the top, just so you feel good about ticking them. Yeah, but you never ever feel like you've completed that list. It's never ending. Mm-hmm. And that was just that, and that was the source of this kind of angst, and tightness in the chest and all that. And now I must admit,
you're through all that.
I don't get that anymore. And
I can feel that and sense it about you, actually.
I feel so. Yeah, just the freedom it's brought is incredible. Yeah.
Well, you've given a lot of people hope, Jim, that they're out there and they're listening and they haven't got themselves in the position that you have, bought themselves a little bit of extra time and thinking space. They're still stuck in their 9 to 5 rat race, that there is hope that you can do other things. And like you say, you can start it as a side hustle. You can try something. It doesn't always have to work first time, but you quite often learn. So going back to the Amazon, by the way, I believed at one point you were going to do Amazon drop shipping, but you said that's something completely different.
Well, there's so many different aspects of it. I don't know a huge amount about drop shipping, but I do follow. I've joined quite a few Facebook groups to do with Amazon, and that's one of them. Mm-hmm. I think that's a different model completely. Yeah, which I won't go into now. It's a bit, but I was thinking of that. Where I'm going to go next, there's another side to Amazon, which is it's called private labeling. Okay. Which is what I'm very interested in, and that could be really interesting now. Which and that involves, everything I sell at the moment are everyday items which everyone's buying. Mm-hmm. They're tried and tested. They're selling on Amazon. I'll only buy stuff that I know will sell. Otherwise, my money gets tied up in stock. But the next thing is the other thing is called private labeling, which is where you find your own product, usually from China, Alibaba. There's so many of these manufacturers out there. So you find a product and you brand it yourself. So it could be something that someone else is selling, but you rebrand it with your own personal brand.
What kind of products does it tend to be, Jim?
Everything. I mean, I have been on a course. Right. I did invest in a course for this. So this is one of my next ventures. So I'm kind of ready to go with this. I just got to get cracking with something new. So this is the new thing. But yeah, things like kitchen utensils, anything and everything. I don't know how many million items for sale on Amazon. You just got to find the one that's trending, or if you could just capture that thing that's coming up soon. I think one of the recent ones was fidget spinners. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, yes.
My gosh. And I was working in schools at the time. The kids had them. That just took off crazily. And if you could have known that was coming and just been a little bit ahead of the game, you could have made some money there.
So tell us a little bit about the numbers that you were doing recently, Jim, if you wouldn't mind.
No problem. Whilst I was teaching, and I was doing this in the evenings and the weekends, I was making probably each month my turnover with Amazon was about 5,000. Eventually it started off very small. Mm-hmm. 2,000. I mean, my initial investment, I bought those phones I spent a couple of £100 on the phones, sent them off.
You made a bit though, didn't you?
And then when the money starts coming back, I used that to buy the next lot. You don't have to have this huge thousands of pounds to invest. You can just build up slowly. And I did. I mean, my sales were very small at the beginning. I think my first month may have been about £800 of sales. That grew then to, I was doing about £2,000 a month for a while. Then it grew to 4, then 5, and each month it was getting steadily bigger. And I used to, if I found something particularly good that I really trusted, I put a little bit of my own money in on top just to help it grow. I think over the space of 18 months, I think I probably put my own money, I probably put about between £1,500 and £2,000 in of my own money. And then that just kind of grew. I knew that the profit on that would be somewhere between 15 and 20% profit on that. That'd be before tax. It's not huge numbers, but as I got to know the system, and as I, like you said, I made loads of mistakes but learned from them, all of a sudden I was doing £6,000 a month. And I knew in my head, I kept thinking, right, if I could do 8,000 sales a month when I leave, right, 20% of 8,000, what's that, 1,600 or something like that?
You're the maths teacher, Jim. We're going to leave that one to you.
1,600. So I kind of done the maths, and I thought, well, that's okay. I've got a few other things I can do. I've got a few other little things I do, like the one-to-one teaching, just to make sure I'm not completely vulnerable. So I thought, if I can do £8,000 turnover and make an extra £1,500 a month on the, as a side hustle, fantastic. I'll be okay with that. I'll be able to pay the bills. I can survive on that. And I think my first month when I went solo, when I packed up and done it over the summer, I think I'd done 10,000 that first month. And then Christmas was starting to come. Then I had a couple of months of doing about 10,000, 12,000, and then November kicked in, and December, and Amazon during Christmas time, the fourth quarter, is just crazy. I mean, it really is, and it went mad. I was putting in boxes every day. I was in the car. I couldn't keep up with it, really. November was about 18 or 19,000, I think. But then December, I was just short of £25,000 in sales. I'm not going to lie to everybody that there are costs. There's things you got to buy. There's little subscriptions. There's petrol. There's all that. But let's be honest. I go to the gym every day. It's changed my life. I feel like a new man. I feel like I'm 10 years younger. I'm happy. I can take that. And now I know the system works. January's been a bit quiet, you'd expect that. Yeah. But things are picking up again now. And here I go again for the next year. And I'm looking forward to it. And so I know the system works. I mean, I'd never have left. I'd never have left unless I was convinced that I would be able to pay my bills. And it's not easy. It's anyone who thinks people are very wise anyway. Everyone knows what's required. If you want the great thing about Amazon is you only get out what you put in. If you don't get in the car and go driving around, and if you don't do the searches online, and if you don't get up and get out, you just don't make the money. And if you do, you do.
Is that the biggest tip you give to people? You're going to have to put some work in. Yeah,
you do. You have to. And, ultimately it's termed passive income and this mobile lifestyle and all this kind of stuff, which is, that's my dream, definitely. That's where I'd hope to go one day. But for now, I'm no stranger to a bit of hard graft. I come from a family that know what hard graft is too. Mum and dad have been a great example over the years. They've done nothing but work for me and my brother and sister.
Where was you brought up, Jim?
North London. Northwest London. So born and bred around Hendon. Lived there all my life. And mum and dad are still there, and my sister and brother aren't too far. Sister in Northampton, and brother's not too far away from the home place either. So I'm no stranger to it, and I'm happy with that. If I know that if I put a good shift in, I'm going to get the reward, that'll do me for now anyway, But I still have that freedom to, yesterday I went on this course down in London. I could never do that.
No.
I can't. You just, as a teacher, that's it. You've got to be there. I never took time off. It was never an option. You just didn't do it. Now, if I fancy having a quiet day on Friday or I want to go somewhere, then I just do a little bit extra on the Saturday. It's that flexibility and the freedom, which is just something I've never had, and something which I am so thankful and grateful for. I really do feel blessed. And one colleague who left at the same time as me, and we still touch base and meet up every few weeks, and both of us just can't believe the change in our lives, getting away from that grind. And as I said, I don't want to knock the profession too much, because it has done so many good things for me, and I've met the most wonderful and amazing people, both adults and children, over the last 20 years, and I'd never change that, really. I've had some great times, but there comes a point where I think you just know that Einstein's definition of insanity, which is just doing the same thing and expecting different results. And through the podcast and the reading I've done, when you actually keep hearing this message that actually it doesn't have to be like this, you can do something about it. And it does take a long time to break that mindset, but eventually I kind of surrounded myself with that and made sure I listened to these people's stories, and people can do this. They can change their lives. And eventually it rubs off and you find yourself in that position where you can make a difference. Yeah. So here I am, yeah.
But we're pleased to have you, Jim. So you were talking earlier about one-to-one teaching of children on mathematics, but can you help anybody and teach anybody what you do?
For Amazon?
Yes.
Yeah, it's something we've spoken about. Every time I speak to you on the phone, Andy, you always say, I'm an ideas man. And you really are. You've fantastic ideas, which you're very happy to share, which I've been very thankful for. And we have spoke about this, and it's definitely something I'm considering, to be honest. Why not? We talk about having a purpose. I'll tell you a little story, so I won't go on because I know, but you put me in touch with these two guys, those champions of mind.
Yes.
Fantastic. They're really incredible guys. They're really fun. I went to one of their courses on the recommendation that you gave me, and it was really brilliant. But at one point they got me up at the front. I don't know how this happened. It's just not me. Doing this is quite difficult for me, really. I'm quite an introvert, really, and quite shy. But they got me up in front of, there must have been about 50 people in the room, or 40 people, I can't remember. But they were talking about your why and your passion and all that. This was just after I left teaching, just very shortly afterwards. And they asked me in front of everyone, what's your purpose in life? And I was kind of very honest, and I said, well, look, I'll tell you the truth. If you'd asked me last week or last month, I'd have said teaching children. That's all I've known. And then I actually said to them, well, look, my purpose at the moment is to find a new purpose. Because I've had this purpose and this thing inside me, it's a great thing to be able to say. And it filled me with so much pride to say that, I'm a teacher and I do my best to change people's lives, on a daily basis. So all of a sudden you kind of feel a bit lost. So I do think to myself, well, maybe if it's something that I could help others do to get to, I'm not pretending that my life is wonderful and it's hard work, but it is wonderful compared to what it was. And if anyone's in that position, then maybe I could help them in some way to do the same. So it's something I'm considering, maybe putting a little package or a course or something together that might get people started on the Amazon road.
I think you ought to, Jim. You're a good teacher and a good guy, so I don't see why you can't mix the two. And you're obviously making a bit of money. It's not, like you say, it's not sort of millionaire's lifestyle. However, that's not what everybody are all about. Some people just want to transition from the job that they're in and they're not loving to something that's different, for one thing, and secondary, it might be somewhere they can make some better money or additional money. It doesn't have to be just that, change their lifestyle instantly. It can help towards a longer term goal. So I think you'd do brilliantly at that.
Got a load of things in my mind that I want to do, and that's definitely one of them. Maybe I'll have to be a little bit selective now and think of maybe one or two and pursue them rather than this scattergun shotgun approach, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe you're right, Jim, there. Definitely. So we're just getting towards the end of the podcast now. I know it's gone quite quick, actually.
It certainly, it has. It really has.
You enjoyed it, Jim, by the way?
Do you know what, Andy? I was very nervous about this. I know I was telling you this, but I really have enjoyed it. It's been great. Really great. I'm so glad I've done it.
Good. Well, you're got a little bit more to do yet, Jim.
Yeah.
You're going to have to tell people a few tips and tricks when they're trying to do Amazon arbitrage.
Tips and tricks?
Yes.
Well, the main thing is to get into, there's some brilliant groups on Facebook. If you just typed in Amazon arbitrage on Facebook, you can go into these groups and they're filled with people talking about their story, sharing their results. And if I've got any questions, I go straight in there and you post it up and you've got an answer, within 24 hours anyway, usually beforehand. And you can ask people's, advice. And I mean, I've done that several times. I've asked many questions and I've also answered many questions. So get into the groups now and start looking. Get onto YouTube and look at people's stories. I think it all started with me with the mindset first, being more positive, and you've got to start kind of have this drip feed of positivity into your life. So listen to the podcast, listen to Andy's podcast, listen to, there's so many out there. I'll share a couple of the ones I listen to. I mean, I listen to Rob Moore's Disruptive Entrepreneur, that one. Yep, I listen to yours every time, Andy. And there's so many out there. I mean, you just look them up, get a few that you like, and listen to them. Audiobooks are amazing because you can listen to them on the train, in the car, and fill your mind with all this stuff.
positive energy. Jim. That's what we want. Yeah.
And it gives you the confidence then to just take that step and believe you can do it.
Exactly what you just said, Jim. It's going to help people, because unless you've got a positive mind, you end up with a negative mind.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help anybody. So yeah, like you say, it's exactly that kind of thing that helps. You could also tell us a few more bits and pieces about the daily stuff if you've got some other tips that you actually do to make it all work a little bit better as a process.
There's so many different stumbling blocks once you start. Even when I first started, things like how do you input the data? Who do you send the box to? All these tiny little details, which are stumbling blocks. And the only way I learned them was by getting it wrong a few times, which cost me a few pounds and cost me a lot of time. So things like that, and they're very difficult to say now because people wouldn't understand what I'm talking about unless they're actually doing that themselves on a daily basis. When you come to it, you'll know. But things like that, if anyone's willing to give it a try or wants any advice, I'm very happy to give them my email address. And I'm very happy to answer people's questions. Being disciplined is incredibly important. The opportunity to stay in bed and watch a bit of telly and watch a bit of Netflix is there now, but I know that's not going to, you've got to be very strong about that and not let those kind of habits start creeping in. And I'm very good like that. I will ensure that never happens, but so being very disciplined, focus on your health, healthy body, healthy mind.
So they say.
Yeah. There's a wealth of little tools and gadgets and things that you can, subscribe to help the Amazon journey. And it took me a while to come across them, but now I've got a lot of those in place. It's making my life so much easier. So really, it's a very simple process. You find the right stock, send it in, adjust your prices, and you just keep doing the same thing again. So if you break it down into these little tasks, it's very simple. Find good stock, sell it at a good price, make sure you've got some profit. That's it. It's not rocket science, but there are things out there which can make life easier. And, I've kind of got to that point where things are getting quicker and easier for me.
Okay, so if anybody does want to contact you, what's the best way to get you?
My email. I'm still big into email. JimRuddyJim@hotmail.com. That's my email address. So
how do you spell that, Jim?
So it's Jim, and Ruddy is RUDDY, and then Jim again @hotmail.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook, Jim Ruddy. Again, RUDDY. You can look me up there.
Thanks very much for coming along, Jim. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I know you don't need it, but I wish you all the luck with your new venture.
Thanks for having me. You've got a lovely home here.
Thank you, Jim.
A wonderful family. Thank you for all your help and support, because I'll be honest, I've known you for, is it 3 years now?
Yeah.
And you've always kept in touch. You give me a ring and you give me that boost of confidence, and you've done some wonderful things, this podcast and everything. So thank you very much for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm very thankful for you for all your support.
On that note, with that gushing endorsement there, we're going to say thanks very much to Jim, and we'll see you all next week. Now, I've trained plenty of people in my time. I've even been asked to train people from Coca-Cola and Glaxo's, but I've set myself a goal, and in 2018 I'm going to train over 100 people to improve their wealth and health. So if you'd like to be considered, it's personal training. I'm going to put it out there for application only, because I'm going to be doing this training initially at my home. So I'm going to have small teams of people. I'm going to work upon everything that you need for small businesses and also for online sales. And we have some people that are specialists that's going to come along and help us. If you'd also like to improve your health, we've got a program that's quite intensive. It's going to mean you putting tremendous effort in, but if you want to improve, I'm going to be able to help you. So please contact me on transformyourwealthandhealth@gmail.com or 07903 771 594. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that episode, and until next time, start transforming your wealth and health now.